Hello and welcome, this is Engineer Dan and welcome back to another engineering video. Finally, last few videos has been on revision for geography, but this video is going to be on reciprocating engines. In today's video we're going to cover four or five things, and that includes induction, also known as the process of bringing air and fuel into the engine. Methods for induction, we're going to be looking at carburetors and fuel injection. The ignition system, so how spark plugs actually get its energy, blow stuff up. And then we're going to be talking about performance, what can decrease the performance of an aircraft. So, if you just look at number one, this dotted line to the left of it here, these are the different types of engines. So there is horizontally opposed engines, basically meaning the cylinders is like this, and then the crankshaft's in the middle, and the crankshaft is directly connected with the propeller, so that's horizontally opposed. V engines, basically like a V engine in a car, just the cylinders are in a V. Propeller is connected with the crankshaft once again. In all of these engines, the propeller is connected to the crankshaft, meaning it's very, very efficient. We've also got the inline engine, same as a car. All the cylinders are in a line, going back and back and back and back. And then finally we have the radial engine. I'll bring this slightly closer. Radial engine basically is all in a circle and has lots and lots of cylinders connected to it. Right, moving on, going to, if you can see number 2 over here. There's normally 2 controls in an aircraft that involves induction, or that affects induction, sorry. That is the throttle. There's a throttle lever and then there's a mixture lever. The throttle controls how much air and fuel you're getting in to the engine or into the cylinder. Mixture, however, controls the ratio of air and fuel. And normally in aircraft there is 1 fuel molecule per 15 air molecules. Now the mixture just kind of keeps this ratio at bay. Now if we go down to number 3, this we're going to talk about the journeys of air and fuel. So starting off with the journey of air, it comes in from outside through a filter. This filter cleans the air, makes sure that there's no big dust particles or dust or like rain or hail particles. Then it gets metered, so the mixture that this is, it gets metered on this setting. So let's just say you change that up to 16 molecules for some reason, it will get 16 air molecules for you, and then it goes straight to the engine. And that's quite simple. I'll move a slightly closer. Now the journey of fuel, on the other hand, comes straight from the wing. It gets metered again. It depends on your mixture settings, and then it goes into the engine. So, if we go down to number 4 here, if you can have a look, there's 2 different types of fuel induction. There is via carburetor. This is for olden day planes mostly. In fuel injection, the more modern one. So, if I pull up my carburetor drone here, you might be able to read it, you might not be able to read it, but I'm going to talk you through it. So this, I'm going to push it forward. This is a carburetor. Now, a carburetor, as you see, consists of 2 main blocks. This is the fuel tank, basically. As you see, this is my fuel. Hold on, let's get a pen, give us a minute. This is the fuel tank, where I'm dotting my pen. And the fuel travels down this pipe, or down this tube, till it gets here. Now this bit here is called the discharge nozzle. Now how this works is air travels through here super fast, and this fast air creates low pressure. So this creates low pressure, sucking the fuel out of the discharge valve. And then this here is the throttle. This just allows either a lot of air and a lot of fuel out, or a little amount of fuel, depending if it's open or fully closed. So let's do a quick recap. Fuel comes from the fuel tank here, goes through the tube to the discharge valve, discharge nozzle, and then air flies through this bit here, creating low pressure, and then the fuel gets sucked out because of that. So that was carburetor. Now we're going to talk about the more modern one. Oh, the disadvantage of this quickly. Disadvantage of this was used in Spitfires. Disadvantage of this is if Spitfires go upside down, this system doesn't really work very well because of the whole entire pressure system. Now moving on to the more modern one is fuel injection. Again, I've written in thinner ink. So fuel injection, these are the components that make fuel injection happen. There's a fuel pump, there's a fuel control unit, there's a fuel manifold, and there's a fuel nozzle. The pump basically pumps fuel from the fuel tank, and it goes straight into the fuel control unit. From there, the fuel control unit regulates how much fuel is getting passed on through the system, and this is determined by the settings that you've got the throttle and the mixture at. Then it goes to the fuel manifold. Now the fuel manifold disperses the fuel into the cylinders, into the cylinder nozzles. Then this is where the fuel nozzles comes in. The fuel nozzles gets that fuel dispersed by the fuel manifold, and it mixes the fuel with air. Now this is different in carburetors because air gets mixed right here, technically in right next to the tank. However, fuel injection mixes right before ignition. So just a quick recap, it goes from the pump to the control unit to the manifold, then to the nozzles, and then them nozzles spray into the cylinders. Might need to rewind that. I did go through that fast. I'm sorry about that. Moving on. Ignition system for spark plugs. This is how spark plugs work. Now this is all in lower ink quality. So the components of this is magnetos, spark plugs, wires, and an ignition switch. Now what magnetos are is the basically rotating magnets that create electrical sparks. Now this sparks gets transferred to the spark plugs via wire. Now what the spark plugs do with this electrical charge is it zaps the air, the compressed air, and that's what makes the boom, the power stroke. So quick reminder, magnetos spin around, the spinner magnets generate electrical sparks. That electrical spark gets transported to the spark plugs, and then the spark plugs zap the compressed air. The ignition switch is down here. In a minute I'll go over that. Is basically what pilots use to control the ignition. So there is an off switch, right, left, both, and start. And this I like to call it an OR gate. If a plane has two magnetos, only one needs to be working to power the engine. However, this is where performance decreases do go wrong. So I think and performance decreases very, very quickly. Detonation decreases the performance, and pre-ignition decreases it. Now what detonation is an uncontrolled explosion. This is normally caused by a steep climb, undercooling and stuff like that, and pre-ignition is caused by carbon deposits, hot carbon deposits that forces obviously stuff to be ignited. Now I hope this video was educational, and I'll see you in the next video. In the next video will probably be turbine engines. So remember, this was reciprocating engines. Next video will be turbine engines, and I'll talk about the differences between them two. So see you in the next video. Adios.